We just finished talking about building and repairing credit in our last video. So if you haven't checked that out, go ahead and check it out because this is a 3-part series where Brian is diving deep into credit. And now we're going to go into strategic credit use, where Brian is going to break down all the things of smart credit strategies, also long-term financial habits, and of course, habits of people with strong credit scores, because of course we want to become those people. So that's what we want to do. Brian is actually going to break these things down for us. He is a part of UQual. It's a great company. So again, if you have more questions about credit itself, by all means, Brian is going to be a great resource for you.
I appreciate it. I like the phrasing that you do, strategic credit usage, because a lot of people, they just feel like it's a buckshot and they're not. I think you said in the last video, if you don't know, how would you know? And it's like rich dad, poor dad. If you were never taught, how were you supposed to learn type stuff, right? So I talk a little bit on the strategic usage, on the do's and don'ts. So for the do's, because I'm a positive guy, is do maintain small balances on all credit cards every single month. Brian, I only use that Best Buy card twice a year, and maybe if that, we'll get in the habit of buying batteries there every other month, and then just making your minimum payment to kind of stretch it out like yoga. Usage creates points, and you have to play in the game to be able to score points. So when you stop using credit cards, and I see people do this all the time, and during COVID, a whole bunch of people actually had their cards shut down. Anytime there's a financial, like huge winds or waves and headwinds, they'll start shutting down cards, people that weren't using them, or they'll shorten your limit because you haven't used that much. And it's not that they're penalizing you, it's they're cutting their liabilities and cutting their risks. So making sure to maintain and use every credit card at the very latest every other month, but I always tell folks at least once a month, and making your monthly payment on time. Another really, really good to do is making sure that you do everything within your power. I mentioned one, if not both of the other videos, to be on time every single month, no ifs, ands, or buts. I will sell plasma. I will go late on the light bill. I will drive Uber. I don't know. Like, there's so many different side hustles nowadays that there's never a reason to not make a $125 Capital One payment. It's so impactful on your scores. And it's one of the hardest things, even with an amazing tech company like mine and all the tools that we have, to be able to go after a recent late for a client working on their own disputes, that if you can just avoid that pitfall, well, it's a lot easier. What's an ounce of prevention is better than a ton of cure, I think they say. Small credit card usage on every single card, making sure you maintain, and not just for credit cards, but all on-time payments for any accounts that report to the credit bureaus. And then another big do is, and I got this from my dad, and it was actually on angry texts back in the day, but I've brought it along to the credit world with everything that I do here, is I tell everyone that they should wait 24 hours before running their credit when they're looking at getting something. Before even yes or no on, do we want to take this hit to our length of credit, which is 15% of your score, your mix of credit, which is 10% of your score. If you're watching the earlier videos, you're already with me. And your new credit, which is another 10% of your score. So that's 35% of your score you can impact negatively by opening just one new account. And it always starts with that inquiry. And whether it's a auto dealership that you say, hey, can I find out what my rate is? And they run your card, they run your credit 10, 15 times with different finance companies to try and get the best rate. Well, you pay for each one of those. One of the big myths out there is shopping windows and how long they exist and don't exist. I always tell people to act like there's no such thing as a shopping window. Just go to one or two people that you trust, that you want to explore with, your bank and your credit union or something, one lender, and talk to them and get that feel, understand what's going on, because all windows close eventually. So sleeping on, should we get this auto loan, or should we get this personal loan for a trip to Hawaii? Well, when you sleep on things for that 24 hours and you wake up the next day in the sober light of day, sometimes you're like, hey, maybe we, instead of financing this, can we just adjust our budget for the next 4 months and to get the tickets in April for our June trip instead of buying them on credit in December? Those are some of the best habits that some of the richest people I've ever worked with and some of the most influential people out here in Colorado when it comes to the industries that I'm in. They don't live on credit, even though they have credit. They live on a budget and use that budget to be able to get the things that they want. Sometimes they have to make sacrifices for the bigger purchases down the road. Other times they just like to have that rainy day fund. And most Americans can't afford a $500 emergency, let alone planning for a $3,000. And they finance it more often than not. The third big do of mine, just giving yourself a day before you ever run your credit or go and get something, or even go to look at running your credit to get something. Just give yourself that time to think, do I have big goals in the near future? How important are those big goals to me, my family, my livelihood, my future plans? You can't start a side hustle with equity from a home if you can't buy a home, because you don't get the equity in the house that you didn't buy. Are those goals worth taking a step back for this one short-term gain? And don't get me wrong, I'm from here in Colorado, like the land of instant gratification. We want to go out, walk, the mountains are right there. You want to go do this, it's all right here for us. Like, we get spoiled. But I tell people the importance of that 24 hours of just giving yourself some time to be serious about it will help save you. And I know as an LO, you've seen it where people, they get a car a week and a half before closing, or they go and finance a whole bunch of furniture, and messes up their debt to income, and messes up their credit. And now the house that they were inches away from being able to grasp is now outside, and you're doing acrobatics and flips and like bending all different ways to make it work. But it creates all these things where if they just waited and given it, like, what are my big term goals? What are my little term goals? It can make a really, really big difference. The don'ts that I give people, and I've said in the other videos, but don't go late. You can never, ever, ever. I work for an amazing fella. His office is on the other side of mine here. And he owns this whole company. He's got all these other endeavors. Really wicked smart guy. He's been doing this for a long, long time. And I know for a fact he's got an excellent credit score. And people ask sometimes when I talk about him at like first time buyer things, because people are like, I want to get so rich, I never need credit. Like, that's not what rich people say. Rich people say, hey, I'm going to have the best credit I possibly can. So when I find an opportunity, if I need to finance it at 4%, but I know I'm going to be getting a 12% return, well, that's 8% in the win. They love having the funds and the capital at their disposal to be able to do the things that they either need or want to do. So I tell folks is not settling and continuing to build, because getting into that spot and having it available is one of the most important things,
Can I add something there? You basically, if you have a worse score, you end up paying for that. You end up paying more. And it's just how the system is built. It's just you have to pay more because there's more risks. There's more risks involved. There's more opportunity cost, kind of how that's measured. And that's in any place, whether it's credit cards. You see people that have like a 580 score, they get a 30% rather than a 15%. And if you see the ranges even in credit cards, it's like 15 to 28.999. Let's just say it just adds $20 more a month. That's still $20 more a month. That's still a good amount in a few years. If you can't pay it and it keeps stacking, guess what? You're now paying for that. I think a lot of people are like, it's fine. At least I can own a home, which is great. But if you do, a lot of times, even for a score of 620 is what we at least strive for. People could get a home at 580. They can. They really can. And if you're a veteran, you at least need even 500. But I've seen it where people think, oh, it's fine, I can get a home. Yes, but there is a cost. The rate usually costs more because there is a cost for even having a lower score.
That's why he has the best scores. So when he needs it, he doesn't have to worry about the rate that he gets, and he has it available. And the dude's got millions and millions that you could pay cash with everything. That's why I tell people, and you're so right, you pay credit's on to do one of two things: help you put money in the bank, or it's on to take money out of your bank. There's no in between. And Michelle talked about credit cards, store cards, auto loans, mortgages. A lot of people don't know their auto insurance is impacted by their credit score. Someone under a 620, and this is from the Zebra State of Auto Insurance, and I bet it's worse now because I haven't done these numbers in like a year and a half, and inflation and all that jazz. But someone under a 620 versus someone over a 720 for a one-car family, about $1,000 a year. Two-car families closer to $2,300. And when you get deep subprime, you're looking at someone sub 550 versus someone over 720, the number is even worse. And those are the same folks that sometimes their car broke or their house broke. They got the house, but they're struggling and they're not able to put any money away. They're not able to pay down debt. And then the AC goes out. And now guess who's having to finance that because you don't have the funds in the bank to pay $2,000 out of pocket. So now you have to finance it. And because of this position that people get themselves stuck in, by just not putting in a little bit of work over a long time goes a long way. It's like, what's that? You do something for 19 minutes every day for a year and you're going to be better than like 90% of the world at it or something like that. It's like a funny little stat. Like if you just a little bit, it's the same thing with people on the do's and don'ts. Being strategic is like, doing all the right things when you can, but even when the rain comes is the rich. And I always like take advice from the people I want to be. Don't get me wrong. Like I'd love to be a professional athlete, but that doesn't help me in this situation. But every millionaire or even the billionaires I personally spoke with, I'm like, what are some of the things that, were non-negotiables for you? And some of the non-negotiables for some of the most successful people in the world was always saving. And we're a fintech company. So like we're all about budgeting and helping people understand how many streaming services do you have? How much money are you wasting? The man on the other side, and he's not here today because it's Saturday, but the fellow who sits on the other side of the wall, to a T, he knows where everything's going. To a cent, he knows where everything's at. And I try and be the same way. So having a strict budget and living within those means. And that does include saving. When people say live within their means, a lot of them account for like a 5% save fund or a 10% save fund or something like that. They're like, I didn't go over on my credit card limit. Well, if you're using the credit cards, you're already beyond your means in some way, shape, or form because that's credit. It wasn't cash, right? So aside from, having cards, small balances, and always making sure that you give yourself time to breathe before you make big decisions that could impact your short and long-term goals is one, always being on time, as I mentioned, kind of goes on both sides for the don'ts, but having a budget that you adhere to, that you're actually a must instead of a should. Like I talked about in the last video about what you should do versus what we must do. If people stuck to budgets and always had money saved, well, that $500 emergency doesn't break them. It doesn't put them over a barrel or whatever that phrase is, right? And then the other big one for the don'ts, and we're seeing this more and more, is people with the buy now, pay later accounts. And it breaks my heart for some of these folks because they think they're doing something to build their credit for some of them. Some of them, hey, maybe I shouldn't be doing this right now. I shouldn't be buying this trip, or I shouldn't be buying this guitar signing. Affirm, it's the craziest website in the world. And I always like to look at the competition, like the people in my industry, because they're a fintech, but different. They're lending and everything. Is you don't even have to go to the store to spend money at the store with Affirm. You just go to Affirm's thing and it's like, oh, you want to buy something from Best Buy? Here's everything at Best Buy. Don't worry about the rate. Just click yes, and then you can go get it today. And it's like, why you got to be weird with it? Like, I just want to look. And it's because they know this is a instant gratification. I'm going to get it right now. And for most folks, they don't look at what the actual payment's going to be over. Can I afford the $120 a month? Yes. But does that turn that $1,000 TV over 2 years to $2,400? Absolutely it does. And now you're paying for 2.5 TVs when if you had just budgeted correctly for 3 months, you don't have to finance it. You don't have to pay extra and you get the same darn TV. It kills me how much I see people throw good money away and not know why they're check to check and not know why they struggle. Well, not planning properly set them up for some pitfalls. Those pitfalls put them in a hole, and then digging out of a hole is the worst thing you can do. You have to change your habits. Something I always got from that phrase, when you're in a hole, stop digging, is I see people who dug themselves into that hole and they don't realize you're not going to make it down to China. You're not going that far. You're just going to keep going down. So taking control and making changes is one of the biggest things. That's why outside of all the credit tools we have here, helping people understand what to open, what to close, and making the right balance adjustments on their credit cards is a big, big part of what we do. The other huge part, and especially if you have big goals of trying to get ready for a home, or just to not have to worry about like creditors calling or seeing, oh no, it's spam likely. What do I owe now? And it hurts your stomach, hurts your tummy. I've been there. I've personally lived that life. Is the budget tools that we have. And even if you're not using ours, use the ones that Chase use. I mean, you should use ours, are the best. They're more specific. But even if you're not using ours, sitting down with an Excel spreadsheet, go old school. And coming up with a budget is one of the biggest things that I found the successful people in my life that I've learned from and tried to emulate. A company, like the most successful companies, have a budget and stick to it and all that stuff. Most Americans, we don't do that. And then we pay the price for it when we're like, why are we broke? And now we're in that hole that we have to take out more debt at bad rates. And it makes us to where it's a self-permeating cycle that's hard to get out of. So I would say just for people who are looking for their next phase in life, whether it's first-time buyers or it's people who are trying to, really set up the best long-term financial habits, talk to Michelle, reach out to her if it's mortgage specific, because she's amazing. She's awesome. I always like to do the Brady Bunch high five. You ready? Yeah, there it is. Nice. I'm a nerd. Is talking to someone like her so you can have an idea of what's within your means, what's realistic. Great things I've always loved about Michelle and her clients is when they come on over, they're like, we were looking at a $750,000 a month or a $750,000 property. And then she talked to us and realized that we don't have to be crazy. Like, what would actually fit us better would be this within our budget. We can always move into that down the road once rates change, blah, blah, blah. There are some people, and, I won't say names and not trying to poo-hoo folks, but there's some folks who will give like a pre-approval letter just to get a client hooked, just to get them in their portfolio, if you will. They don't have the same caring about the clients that I found that New American Funding will do. And it's one of the big things that I really, really appreciate in working with you, and Crystal on my team's always said, is it's not just seeing the person as a client. You actually see them as a person for someone that you're actually going to help. And we think the same way in trying to set them up, not just for this goal right now, but for moving forward down the road. Like, how do you never, I'm like a dentist. I don't want to see anyone again once they use us. Like, I want to hear like their friend being referred on over to me, but my dentist doesn't want to see me with cavities every 2 months. He wants me to have perfect teeth, so it's an in and out, and he can get to other clients who need more help. It's the same for us. So when someone does work with us, the credit tools, the credit knowledge, the budget tools, everything that we put together is trying to set you up for that long-term growth, that long-term gain. So you never have to worry about these things ever again. And you get to walk around with that strut, like we were talking about in the last video, of knowing that you're in control and that you're actually able to, have faith and confidence in your own self. That's really what I'm here for.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Brian. And just one more question. What would you say to the people that were like, I don't have the time, I don't have capacity? What would you say to those folks? Because I know I could hear it almost right now, those thoughts like, I don't have time for this, right? So what would you say to that?
That's a great question. The thing I would say, and it's going to sound harsh, and I'll be really, really, like, I find most real truths can be unsettling, or whatever they say. People have some time for what they value. And if it's something that you don't understand in the sense of like, well, I'd love to get my credit to a better spot, I'd love to come up with a budget, but I'm a single mom, I work 3 jobs. You're the person that, I agree, you don't have time to do this yourself. That's what we're here for. That's what my tech's here for. That's what Michelle's here for. You said, whether it was in this video or the last one, about like, you're not alone. It's hard to climb Everest by yourself. No one's got time for that nonsense. But when you got a whole bunch of Sherpas holding your stuff and helping you, you can actually make it. So I always say, like, it's the same thing. I don't have money. I'm an at service. And because of Michelle and our partnership and stuff, like, clients that use me don't pay what a normal client would pay. Normal clients like twice as much when they're not coming from Michelle. And she also gets her clients a discount on the monthly for all my tools. I'll talk to clients who say, not only do I not have the time, Brian, I don't have the money. I couldn't do these things if I wanted to. And it sounds so silly, but I say, you're the ones who need it the most. You're the ones who, if you can't afford a $99 a month expense, if you can't afford a $500 emergency, then you're teetering on the edge of oblivion. And if it was a 15, 20-minute phone call once a month, which is really what we are here at UQual, is clients have to participate. They have to play their role. But the biggest role that they play is calling us once a month to be able to go over the stuff that they can see in their phone by itself, to talk about it so they know what their next steps are, so they know what their homework is. There's times where we'll come in on a Saturday. There's times where we'll stay until 8 p.m. Mountain Standard for someone in Hawaii who's getting off work at 5. We'll be flexible because we're a company of people who are passionate about what we do. If you want a change, and nothing comes easy in life except failure. Like, that is, I really love that phrase, because it's easy to fail. It can be hard to succeed. But if you're tired of having the same outcome from the same production, same outcome, nothing's changing, and you're just, woe is me, and I call it learned helplessness, no one's got time for that. Make a change, set apart some time, whether it's calling in on your lunch, calling in on a Saturday, hitting up Michelle and say, hey, can they call me Sunday the 5th at 2 p.m.? I've made these calls for my son's flag football field, doing anything I can for people, because I do understand the world is hard. It's only harder if you don't take steps to make it easier, and we're here to take those steps with you. So for those who, whether it's time or money, invest in yourself, put the time into yourself and put it into your family because you're worth it. Everyone deserves to not have to stress. Everyone deserves to have a home if they're willing to work for it. And everyone's got time for that. Just you need a partner, and we can always help.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. And where can people find you?
We are at uqual.com, which is short for you qualify. It's uqual.com. The thing I would say for anyone who sees this video and goes online to request a free consultation is make sure you put Michelle's information in how you got us, because where she works and the partnership she has with us, not only do you get some extra perks and benefits because of the partnership, but that way we can connect you to one of the best LOs in the nation who will care about you, do everything she can to get you where you need to be. We're here to help. Anyone who wants to skip going to the website, it's Brian with an I, because that's the only right way to spell it, .eck, which is my last name, ECK, at uqual.com. So brian.eck at uqual.com. And I live this life. I've been here forever. They'll need security if they want to get rid of me. We're here to help for those who want the help. And we won't do it all for you, but we will help you achieve the goals that you're looking to achieve. And they're life-changing goals, generational wealth goals. It's the difference between your children's college being paid for by you or by them taking out a loan 20 years from now. I wish I'd never had to do that. And those are things that we get to help you with if you want the help, but you got to want it and you got to put in the work. We'll be here to get you back to Michelle.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. And again, if you are looking to purchase a home or this big dream, it all does start with the foundations of what we were sharing and what we've been sharing this whole video and the past videos as well. So comment below how this has helped you, because I know this has helped me so much. And thank Brian, because I'm going to thank him too, but thank him for being here because he used this time to actually give us a wealth of knowledge. So again, thank you, Brian, for being here. And we hope to see you on soon at some point.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Michelle.